Okay, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to the Planning Applications Committee. The first item of business, as you can see, because it's me again, is that before us is the appointment of a chair. We have apologies from both the chair and vice chair. So I invite proposals in terms of the appointment of a chair from the members here present.
Propose Councillor Lundy.
Do I have a seconder?
Second that.
Okay, so Councillor Lundy, proposed by Councillor Edlin, seconded by Councillor Ireland. Is anyone else otherwise minded? No, so that's a unanimous decision. Councillor Lundy, could you assume the chair, please?
Welcome to the Planning Applications Committee. I'm Councillor Lundy. Present we've got Councillor Edlin, Councillor Morrison, Councillor Ireland, Alan Pepler, who is the Principal Planning Officer, Gillian McCartney to my left, the Head of Environment Planning.
Yeah.
Is that fine?
That's fine.
Linda Hutchison, Senior Committee Services Officer, and John Burke, Committee Services Officer. First on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Yes, we have apologies from Councillors, if I get this right, Provost Montague and Councillors Cunningham and McLean.
And second on the agenda is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Can't see any. So number 3 on the agenda is applications for planning permission for consideration by the committee. We have one application for planning, which is reference number 2022066OTP, which is at the site formerly part of Pilmuir Quarry. Move to Alan Pepler.
Thank you, Chair. As you can see from the papers, this application is a detailed planning application for the formation of a dog exercise enclosure in the Pilmuir Holdings area in the Greenbelt, approximately 450 metres west of Newton Mearns. In terms of the report, as outlined in the papers, consultations were undertaken and no objections were received. 18 representations have been received. The comments raised cover various matters, including habitat and tree loss, out of keeping with the area, road safety, noise, nuisance and lighting. Turning to the slides, the site lies in open countryside and is currently a fenced off area consisting primarily of grass and trees. The M77, just for your reference, runs north-south in this area, Maidenhill, just off the map there to the right. In terms of the adopted local development plan 2, the application site lies within a greenbelt location. There are no other designations on the site. Sorry, this is the site here, so it's redlined. Pilmuir Road runs along here. The proposed site plan shows the dog exercise area outlined, including the new access positioned to the south of the site, and together with 4 car parking spaces in this location here. The red area here, the trees, indicates an area of tree loss, with the rest of the trees indicated on the plan to be retained. The original plan submitted included an access in this location, which was already constructed. The current proposal is for the revised access position and including the reinstatement of the original access and replacement tree planting. This photograph shows a view from internally within the site looking towards the site entrance as originally constructed, showing some tree loss, which, as I said, there will be replacement trees here as proposed. The proposal also includes gates and fencing as detailed on these drawings. There are a number of policies in the Local Development Plan and MPF 4 of relevance to the application are set out in the report. In terms of the assessment, it is considered that the proposal is an appropriate use for the green belt and that it will provide a relatively low impact leisure related facility in close proximity to the edge of Newton Mearns. While additional traffic movements will be generated, the number is not considered to be significant. The proposal does not include any significant loss of trees or biodiversity. Overall, the proposal is considered to comply with the relevant policies of MPF 4 and Local Development Plan 2 as set out in the report. It is recognised that the proposal has generated 18 letters of objection raising concerns primarily in relation to wildlife impacts, road safety and noise and other forms of disturbance from the proposals. In respect of wildlife impacts, it is noted that an ecological survey has been submitted which didn't identify any protected species and noted that the site has limited potential for biodiversity. A traffic survey was also submitted and the road service are satisfied that safe access can be provided. In respect of noise, the closest residential property is approximately 200 metres from the site, providing a sufficient buffer. Environmental Health have not objected to the proposal. Taking all relevant matters into account, the recommendation is for approval, subject to conditions to control landscaping, waste management, removal and reinstatement of the unauthorised access and details of lighting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments from the Councillor Ireland?
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I've got a few questions, if you would bear with me on this one. Just first of all, Alan, could you point out on the plan where the unauthorised access has been taken? Sorry, I think I missed that when you were...
Yes, there's a slight colour change here. It's purple, so the trees are indicated as purple in this, so just here.
Right.
Yeah, so, sorry.
Okay, no,
Apologise.
that's clear
Thank
now.
you.
Thank you very much. What would it? I suppose my first question is, what would it take to fully reinstate the access, the unauthorised access that's been taken? And then, in report handling, it states it's noted there's been a modest loss of trees with the formation of this access. It's understood that additional tree removal was carried out, but this was to address diseased large trees. So I had some questions from that. It was how many trees have been removed, and has the existence of any disease been proved by a tree survey? In addition, there are a number of trees on the site. How many are to be removed? Because when you go and you look at the site, it's quite heavily wooded. So it's just how many are to be removed. What will it take to reinstate? And is there any evidence about the diseased larch trees? I do have another couple of questions, but can I lead with that?
Yeah, in terms of the site access, I don't think the photograph will illustrate it too well, but I'll go back to that one. There is a slight change in levels, so the access has been, sorry, you can see a car here. The access has been cut in a little bit, so there is a slight change in levels, so there will be a requirement to effectively fill in the gap, if you like, and appropriate topsoil replanting. It's not a significant area, but the biggest visual impact is a slight change in level. So it's not significant, but that is what will be required. In terms of the trees, a tree survey hasn't been submitted, but an ecological survey has been submitted. The trees, we've had a look at the history of the site and aerial photographs, etc. The trees appear to be approximately 20 years old. I don't know definitively, but you're looking at self-seeded, relatively immature trees. So while any tree loss is preferably, we prefer not to have any tree loss. In this case, the trees are not significant, so we are comfortable with we can get suitable replacement, and that's why we've put a condition on which refers to tree replacement and includes biodiversity within the wording of the condition. So what we're seeking is appropriate trees and additional mitigation if possible. So we've not agreed that yet, but we will seek to agree that if approved. I think that might answer your questions, hopefully.
Mr. Morrison, or do you have any further questions?
I just wonder if you wanted to intersperse them with.
Yeah, I do have a couple of other questions, but I saw that Councillor Morrison wanted to come in. Is that?
Yeah, no, thanks. I just thought I'd indicate, because I appreciate when you were taking questions in the first instance, Councillor Ilam's the only person who indicated, but I do actually have a question. It's with regards to the recommendation number 6. Details for any lighting for the proposed development shall be submitted for written approval. My understanding of these dog run facilities, not this one but elsewhere where they are available, is they don't tend to have lighting on site. I was just wondering if there was any insight into that, because I know that lighting is one of the concerns represented within 18 representations, and it's a concern I would share with regards to impact on nature, because it's quite a rural setting. I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Morrison. It's in reference to issues raised in the objections. So no, there's no indication that there will be lighting. It's really to seek to control that, because certain elements of development can be undertaken without consent. So it's just for clarity. So we're seeking belt and braces, if you like, that if any lighting is proposed, they need to advise us in advance of that, and we may not agree to any lighting. So yeah, we take your point that lighting in a rural location is to be avoided where possible. So I think we're comfortable that we can control that.
I'm quite happy.
Councillor Ireland.
Thank you. Yes, that was concerning to me as well, because I noticed the opening hours were to 7 o'clock from October to March, and it's dark, the back of 4. So I'm just concerned that bulk of time is they're going to need lighting. There's no other option if that's the opening hours that are proposed. I did right. So okay, the other questions I'd written down were: how many users are expected to take advantage of this facility? When I started to read it, I thought it was a single company that was perhaps taking dogs to one location in one mode of transport, and then they were taking them back. But the further I was reading into it, this is anyone can go park and use it. So how many dogs is it anticipated that we take advantage of this? How many dogs can it take? Will it be open to one single dog walker or several, or to the wider general public? I just wanted a wee bit of clarity on that, and roundabout kind of anticipated footfall. I'm trying to get an idea with the car parking spaces and just the use of this.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Yeah, I don't have a number for the specific number of users. We did have a traffic survey submitted, which indicated the anticipated number. So roads were asking a similar question. Is there sufficient parking? And the applicant submitted information regarding the movements, and roads were satisfied that the 4 spaces were okay. I don't have all the information to hand in terms of the sporting information, but yeah, my understanding is that it's primarily for, if you like, group users of the facility, but I don't think there's a specific restriction on individuals using it, but they would have to book it. So clearly, you can't have, I don't think you can have 25 dogs running about at one time, because it's not appropriate. But so by its nature, I think there's 4 spaces. So whether you can have 4 users at one time or not, but certainly there's a limit, and the site is actually not that big. You know, I think it's substantial, but I think there's other dog fields which cover a greater area than this. Thank you.
And I hear what Councillor Allen's just said. I share my concerns about, I mean, you said, talking about the dogs rather than the humans. Is there any restriction on the number of dogs at one time? I take it you don't need lighting for dogs at night, but are there protections if the dogs get lost at night? Or what are the existing unauthorised works that are there under the section of 18 representations? Can you exemplify these, Mr. Pepler? Existing unauthorised works and the road safety and pedestrian hazards. I'd like to hear more about that. But I mean, currently, can you take your dog to a place like that and walk it without permission, or do you have to always pay to go to a place like that to walk your dog these days? I don't have a dog, so I don't know.
Thanks, Councillor
18 objections. 18 objections to this proposal in a site where there's relatively few houses. I would have thought it's quite a high number, and I think we should give due cognizance to these issues.
Yeah, you don't need planning permission to walk your dogs in a field. It's just the formalisation of it that requires planning permission. The unauthorised works are the access, so you can see on this photograph, as I discussed earlier, the original access location. So that is the only unauthorised works. In terms of the proposed access, roads did require a submission of visibility, a visibility display drawing. So the revised location was discussed and provisionally agreed, subject to any approval by roads, that it could be acceptable. So there's the alternative access position is such that the visibility is improved rather than the access position you can see there. So
just to clarify that, if you don't mind, just to be specific, this person got the site, put in unauthorised access, which he did not get any permission for, and presumably has started trading already using that site with the dogs coming in already. Is that correct? Am I got that wrong? Because what does unauthorised mean in these terms?
As far as I know, it's not trading just now.
So, but he's gone ahead to start preparing the ground by doing this in an unauthorised site. So what is the normal procedure of the council when somebody does that, if it's unauthorised? Do they tell them to reverse it immediately, or they just accept it and do nothing?
It's a judgment call. So
it's your judgment. You're the planning person.
Yeah. So if as we'll come on to later, we're guided by Scottish Government legislation and our local plan. So if someone starts a use that's unauthorised, we'll have a look at it. We'll consider the options, and if we think that there's some possibility that this could be acceptable, then we'll encourage them to submit a planning application rather than serve an enforcement notice.
So in this case, you decided that the application was reasonable for them to leave the unauthorised construction in place. Is that what you're saying?
We gave them the opportunity to apply for planning permission, but there'd be no guarantee.
You didn't ask him to remove it at all?
No, I mean...
That's fine, thank you. I understand what you've said. That concludes my questions, thank you.
Is So just a slight point of clarification. Certain works don't require planning permission, so you only need permission to form an access onto generally a classified road. So while the formation of the access might not require planning permission, the combination of the engineering works, the removing the soil and the proposed use in itself would require planning permission. So, farmers are allowed to form accesses, etc. So it's not quite as simple as...
I'm quite a simple person. Either it's authorised or it's unauthorised. Which is it? If the person has unauthorised access, he's unauthorised, and I would have thought something should be done about it. Or if it's not authorised, he can do it. So which, you've written in this, it says unauthorised, so which is it?
The development was unauthorised, so we would have contacted...
That concludes the question. You've answered the question. It's unauthorised.
Does anyone have any more comments or would like to propose a motion?
I think I'd propose against granting permission. Is there a seconder to that?
Yeah.
Proposed by Councillor Morrison and seconded by Councillor Ireland. We'll have a vote on it then. Anyone otherwise minded?
So the proposal by Councillor Morrison was to refuse planning permission, seconded by Councillor Ireland, and as there's no counter proposal, then that's the decision of the committee in this case.
Do you need any technical reasons from us? I mean, I would allude to the concerns around wildlife, lighting, roads, access, public access to wildlife and nature. That's basically the gist of it, I think.
If it's okay, Chair, I was going to add on to what Councillor Morrison had said, and that I do find it contrary to National Planning Framework 4 Policy 3, Biodiversity, and Policy 6, Forestry, Woodland and Trees, and also our own Local Development Plan, Policy D1, as I do believe it would have an adverse impact on the character and the amenity of the area.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Members of the public aren't entitled to speak at these meetings, I'm afraid.
So, item 4 on the agenda is section 33A notice at 29 East Kilbride Road. Is it yourself or?
I was doing that. This report is to update members on the service of a notice under section 33A of the Town and Country Planning Scotland Act 1997, authorised by the Planning Applications Committee on the 7th of June 23 in respect of authorised development at 29 East Kilbride Road, Busby. At the meeting at the 7th of June 23, the Planning Applications Committee authorised the service of a Section 33A notice. This is a formal notice requiring the landowner to submit the required planning application in retrospect. Whilst there are no penalty provisions for failing to comply with this notice, it constitutes enforcement action under the relevant legislation and leaves it open to the Planning Service to pursue further action in terms of the enforcement notice at any time. As an update, the landowner has not complied with the terms of the Section 33A notice and has refused to submit the required planning application. Failure to submit a retrospective planning application does not mean that the Planning Service is required to serve an enforcement notice to seek removal of the structures. and that's related in Circular 10/2009 of Scottish Government legislation. The unauthorised works relate to the erection of outbuildings for domestic purposes within an existing garden and behind a timber boundary fence. The use of the outbuildings for purposes ancillary to the dwelling would not therefore be out of character with the residential area of the site. Whilst the fence and outbuildings are visible from out with the site, from the adjacent properties on Printer's Land, there are nevertheless domestic in scale. And perhaps before any further, Alan has a short slide pack that you might want to see.
Thank you, Gillian. Oops. So, you may be familiar with the site, but I've got 5 photographs from different angles. As indicated on this drawing, the building in question is this square here. So a couple of photographs from East Kilbride Road, and then some photographs closer or internally within Printer's Land. So this is East Kilbride Road here, Printer's Land here. So this is photograph 1. So again, this is the opposite side of East Kilbride Road, looking at the house here. The outbuildings can be seen in this location, partially screened from trees, by a tree. This photograph, again from East Kilbride Road, shows the building in its arguably its most visible location. Just for illustrative purposes, this on the right hand side here, it's the street view image from prior to the building being erected. I know it's slightly different distance away, but it gives you an idea of the appearance before and after. This photograph is adjacent to the closest house on Printer's Land, so the end terrace. So that is just to illustrate the relationship between the building and the adjacent footpath and the adjacent houses in that location. This photograph is from the path that joins the parking area at the rear of Printer's Land to East Kilbride Road, and probably not easily visible, but there's a lane that runs in front of the houses on Printer's Land, and the building 29 East Kilbride Road is in this location here, with the building you can see just to the side of it there. This plan is the plan that's submitted by the applicant at the time before they withdrew the initial application. It's just really showing the position of the building in relation to the house. That really concludes this part of the presentation.
Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, Chair. Mr Pepler, with regards to the planning application which was withdrawn, I don't know if it's possible to refer to the online portal, or if you can give an outline of what that application which was withdrawn was actually for. What was it the applicant was applying for? Was it described as being outbuildings? Because I have to say, looking at photograph 2 there, that looks like a habitation to me. Not an outbuilding. An outbuilding, to my mind, unless you correct me, would be a garage or a shed, or it wouldn't be somewhere fit for human habitation.
Apologise. Yeah, I think it was on the application form. It was a shed or a building to house hot tub.
And to elaborate on that, would that be for the residents of the property or for rent to visitors to the property? If you know.
It didn't say specifically, but It was a householder planning application, therefore, by default, the implication would be that it was for the residents of the property.
Can I ask a further question in that case? It's either to Mrs McCartney or Mr Pepler, or whoever's best placed to answer. Under the new short-term registration, short-term let registration requirements, has there been any such application made for these properties?
Not that we're aware of in relation.
Councillor Island.
Thank you very much. And that what? Yes, I'd written down what was the application for, because that isn't what I'm seeing. Yes, a small building. It looks very substantial. That we're looking at. I've got a whole host of points. If you don't mind bearing with me, there's a point made in paragraph 3.2 that planning authorities should consider when any breach of control would affect unacceptably either public amenity or the use of land and buildings meriting protection in the public interest. The very first question I'd written down: does this breach of control not do just that? The development absolutely does affect public amenity in the neighbouring properties. Have in the circular that's referred to in the report, D/2009, states that the planning authority should take into account any third-party representations received in respect of the matter. So I suppose my very first question is, have third-party representations been properly taken into account when the decision has been made not to pursue this? I suppose I'm quite... The fact that we're sitting here and someone has just refused to put in a planning application is something that we've never came across before. I've never known anyone to just refuse to put in a planning application and say that they just don't think they should. But here we are. So, have third-party representations been properly taken into account? Also, a couple of times the report described the development breach as trivial. I don't think it's trivial. I don't think it's trivial at all. This is quite a large structure that you were showing. It appears to be, from what I could see, in complete opposition to our household design guidance, which states garages and outbuildings should not be positioned in front of the front elevation of the house. They should also generally be finished in materials to match the original house. So that's my second question. Is this the case? Has that actually happened? We don't have an application in front of us. It's so difficult. So we don't have this detail. So has that actually been...
Can we take
Yes.
those points? And
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. The first thing I would say is this isn't a planning application that we've put forward, so we haven't. There's no neighbour notification, and therefore there is no representations because this is not a planning application. Okay, so this is a report in relation to the section 33A notice that we have served on the owner of the land, and you know, the report is in relation to that, if that's helpful.
I see this as quite simple. A person has erected buildings for whatever use, has ignored the request from the council, as I understand it. If I've got that wrong, please tell me. He's just left the buildings there. He's just effectively ignored everything you've done. They're not trivial buildings under item 3.2. They look like substantial buildings to me. And I think there have been objections. You can tell me the exact number of objections. I'm not sure that I understand. I need to read it more clearly again. I've forgotten the number, but you can tell me about that. And to my mind, this is somebody who is just flagrantly ignoring the law, and I cannot see any justification for allowing these buildings to remain as they are, because if we were not to take action as suggested or appropriate, then everybody could come along and say, well, we'll just stick a hut up at the bottom of our garden, council come along and say, well, you need to get retrospective planning approval. They don't bother, and it's a free-for-all. There's no point having a planning committee. So, therefore, I think I'm just quite appalled, actually, by the conduct in this matter. I can't see, although Councillor Ireland, I think you're trying to see a logic to it. I don't think there's a logic. I think it's just bloody mindedness. But that's that. But Mr. Pepler can correct me if I've got that wrong. Or sorry, or Mr. McCartney. Sorry.
Just to put it in context, obviously the last report that came to the Planning Applications Committee, it is quite normal for people that own houses, detached, semi-detached, mid-terrace houses. They have certain permitted development rights that they can genuinely erect garages and outbuildings and offices, home offices, which we had many during COVID. So that is quite normal. They can do under permitted development rights up to certain sizes without requiring planning permission, and then if they go over those permitted development rights, then they require a planning application. In this case, without that footpath at the side of the property, that would normally have been permitted development, but because of that pathway, it requires a planning application.
And he was invited to do that, and he ignored it. I think that is that's a very relevant point. I mean, he ignored the process.
Yes, he has failed to comply with our request to do so. So our recommendation in terms of this report is that no further action should be taken in respect of the outbuildings and the fence within the garden ground. So that is our recommendation to the committee. Thank you.
Morrison.
Thank you, Chair. Is it possible to have an outline of the objections which have been referred to within the papers? What are the nature of the objections of the residents in Printersland?
It's not a planning application. So, but we have clearly, when it was built, we were contacted by neighbours about it who weren't happy with it. But that, so we don't have objections in that context.
Well,
Chairman.
sorry, Councillor Evans, just to finish on my kind of train of thought on that. I have some sympathy with officers' recommendations that no further action be taken. Right, the council's facing tight budgets, tight in terms of manpower, but I actually think that whilst that's an operational decision, I think that we, the elected members, would be doing you a disservice by going for that. We need to look at things in a more strategic point of view and say, right, okay, so we back down in this particular case here. There should have been an application. There wasn't an application. We'll just let you away with it. But actually, I think we'll be giving you vastly more work in future years because, as Councillor Edlund said, it gives a green light to other people to consider planning to be an optional extra rather than a legal requirement which people should comply with. And actually think in the longer run, we'll be incurring more work for you, more work for your teams, more money taken out of your budget, because there'll be further actions in future where people wouldn't do what is expected of them and what is legally required of them. So from that point of view, I would move that we do not accept the recommendation. Thank you.
Chair, could I ask a question? If we do not accept the recommendation, does that mean that the council is obligated to enforce the removal of these unauthorised buildings?
That would be something that we would need to consider. That's a fairly lengthy process to go through and could eventually end in court. So that's not, I would suggest, a conversation to have today. That would be a future report to the planning applications if that was the case.
So you may go back to the person who owns these properties to suggest he reconsiders in light of this decision today. Reconsiders the planning application. Is that right?
We would make him aware of the decision today, whatever if that is the decision made.
Because I mean, I do feel strongly about this case, and many of the decisions we make some are more important than others, but to me it seems there's a lot of issues in this case which trouble me, and I don't think it's fair on the people we serve to support or do anything that could encourage a breach of law and order, which I see this as. I see this as quite a significant breach.
Councillor Morrison, do you have a seconder?
I would second.
Is anyone otherwise minded?
So the decision of the committee then is to refuse the recommendations in the report.
Councillor.
Sorry, Chair, it was just to say yes, I thoroughly agree with what's been put forward, and I think if we could have a further report back with options to take this forward.
Okay, in terms of the minute, I'll include that as part of the decision that a further report be brought in regards to this issue at a later date. Okay. Is that satisfactory?
I'm concerned that there's a problem here and we're sort of dancing around it rather than confronting the problem to a certain extent. And I'm concerned that eventually, by default, this person may get away with this. That's what I'm saying. And I realise the council are reluctant to take definitive action because of the possible cost of it. But I think we really have to, we feel strongly about this, and I think the council officers should take that into account when they're dealing with it.
I'm sure that will be noted when you're bringing your...
That will be noted, yeah.
Okay, that's the meeting concluded.